My name is Jack Griffin, and on behalf of the Election Oversight Committee, welcome to the 2018 SGA Presidential Debate. And here's your moderator, Dr. Frank Ross.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Let's get some more excitement in the room. Thank you for coming to our debate tonight and for your interest in helping select the new SGA president for next year. This event is being live streamed by the SGA Marcom board, so thank you as well to everyone who's watching us remotely this evening. At this time, I'd like to encourage the audience to keep any comments or applause until the end of the debate. Now let me introduce your candidates to you. To my immediate left, Sam Berry.
Hi.
And to his left, Matt Warren.
Hey, Bulldogs.
Okay, so we're going to begin tonight with a coin toss. The winner of the coin toss can choose to speak either first or second, although each candidate will have the same amount of speaking time. Sam, you are heads, and Matt, you're tails. Okay, so here we go.
Tails.
All right.
I would like to go second, please.
All right, so Matt will be our second speaker this evening. First, we're going to ask each candidate to give a brief 2-minute opening statement summarizing their platform.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, and thank you all for being here this evening. Courtney.
Yeah.
Are you concerned with the Title IX processes on our campus?
I am.
Laleen, are you concerned with the student relationship with BUPD?
Yes, I am.
And Mari, are you concerned that the conversations surrounding diversity continue to only be conversations?
Mm-hmm.
So am I. And that's why I'm running for Student Government Association president. Over the past year and a half, I have immersed myself in the student experience. As a first year, I was a senator in Ross Hall and served my constituents and listened to them and found that they were in need of an organization that united and empowered independent students. And so we did just that. And in doing so, we worked in harmony with our Greek counterparts to ensure we were creating a cohesive community. And this year, as a member of Student Initiatives Board, I worked with Transform, our student transgender support group, and helped them become an official organization, provide them with the support and resources they need, and provided access to gender-inclusive restrooms across campus. And as your SGA president, I will continue to immerse myself in the student experience by holding administration accountable and asking the hard questions, by ensuring student government is accessible to every student and every student organization, and promoting an inclusive community for all of us on our campus. I am Sam Berry, and I'm running for SGA president to be your voice and execute change. Thank you.
All right. Just like Sam said, thank you guys so much for coming here tonight. It definitely means a lot, and it really speaks bounds of your voices here on this campus, that you guys took the time to be here tonight. Just like each and every one of you, I walked onto this campus as a Bulldog. And when I came here, my first year was greater than I could have ever imagined it being. I was out there, living the dream, getting involved in clubs. I saw SGA at that block party, and I was all about it. That's why I started my organization. Bailey came and knocked on my door one day and said, "Matt, have you thought about running for Senate?" I said, "What is Senate? I don't even know what this is." And that's part of the problem. Let's take SGA and continue to make it grow. Let's make it go beyond where it's at right now, not shrink it. Let's take it to a place where it can serve every single student here on this campus. And that's something that I'm focused on doing. With my experience, I started as that Resco senator, and I built it up from there. I got to see 2 presidents work within the Senate, as well as the SGA on cabinet and their boards. And that was something that's instrumental to me. I definitely grew into this next year, where I decided to run for programs board, and I became a part of this homecoming committee. We had one of the most successful homecoming weeks ever this year, and it was a whole community event where Greek houses, independent students, as well as different clubs and organizations, were all incorporated into the parade, all incorporated into the Bulldog way, the Butler way. And finally, when it comes to my platform, there's a few things that I want us to make sure that happen. As sophomore class president, I was there to advocate for other people. I sent out Google Forms, almost monthly emails, updating you on whatever was happening in Senate and SGA and even the broader campus environment. I was there to make sure that the student voice was heard. So I want to advocate for all people. Mental health should not be a stigma here. Advocate for diversity.
10 seconds.
And finally, focus on the things that are here for campus and to collaborate together with one another, all students, Greek and independent, to make sure that we are Butler University. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move into the debate. One candidate will get 2 minutes to answer the question, and the other candidate will have 1 minute to respond. And as you just heard, we have timers in the front, so when there's 10 seconds left, I will give them that notice. These questions have been completely randomized. The first question. Expectations for an SGA president vary from one person to the next. What do you see as the role of the SGA president, and how are you qualified to fulfill this role? And we'll begin with our second speaker.
So to me, the role of the SGA president is first and foremost to be there for every single student on this university. And that includes a bunch of different clubs, organizations, but also just a student in the classroom environment. Let's go out there into classrooms. Let's hold professors and administration accountable. The person that has the job of the student body president or SGA president is the person that needs to be there for the big decisions. We live in a world where things around us aren't necessarily going always in a positive direction. Whether that's with our clubs here on our campus or even like sporting events. And we need to keep it positive, make sure Butler stays at the top. So that president needs to be a person that can talk to administration, talk to the board, and to make sure that Butler stays at the level that it's at and continues to grow. They also need to be working with other student body presidents across the nation, especially in Indiana, to make sure that Butler is holding its spot in this nation as a fantastic university and campus environment. They also need to be there to advocate for every single student, to collaborate with one another, and they also need to be focused and streamlined. Without an organized president and without their role being there to organize the student body, this campus and Butler will end up being stagnant. When you're stagnant, you just go behind. So we need a leader that is there to advocate and to be that voice for all students and push the administration to get us to where we want to be and where we should be as a university, and to continue to progress and not regress, because that's something that I feel like has happened over this past year.
1 minute to respond.
The most important thing that an SGA president can do is be accessible and listen critically to their constituents. And as that SGA president, I will do just what I did as a Ross Hall senator, set up regular office hours so Mari can come sit down with me, voice her concern alongside cabinet members and administrators, and learn and walk away what we're doing to help support that issue. In addition, it's important that the SGA president supports students no matter where they find that home or where they find that community. And as SGA president, I have experience with a multitude of communities and organizations that I will be able to support and nurture and listen to.
Thank you both. The second question. Given the current campus and national climate, issues of diversity and inclusion are extremely important on our campus and beyond. As the leader of SGA, how would you create inclusive communities and environment for all students campus-wide? Sam, you're the first and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, and I think this is I love having this question. It's a critical point in our university, and it's also one of my main points in my platform and candidacy is creating and promoting an inclusive community for all students. And the Diversity Inclusion Board have made great strides this year in providing discussions on the road and bringing those conversations to communities across Butler. Because what we're seeing right now is when I was at DIB events all week, it's the same 10 people who are at those events. And while that's great conversation for those students, we need to bring in more students to have those critical conversations. And right now those conversations are being housed in the Diversity Center, which is honestly ill-equipped to be hosting them. The furniture is falling apart, the technology is breaking, and it doesn't have the resources to be a student hub and house those critical conversations. So as SGA president, I will dedicate funds to ensuring that it can be a student hub. In addition, I'll be promoting the discussions on the road to ensure that we're engaging every community on our campus in these critical diversity and inclusion conversations.
Okay, Matt, you have 1 minute to respond.
I would actually agree with a lot of what Sam says. I think that we need to start off giving Diversity and Inclusion Board a lot more money. Because right now they're at an awkward money amount where they can't really do anything that would be as effective as it should be on this campus and in our campus climate. So one of the biggest events last year was whenever Jordan Peele came and talked in Clues Hall. That was a thing that we got the whole campus to go to and to get everyone talking about diversity on our campus. We need more events like that, especially at the beginning of the year. Include diversity as a part of our Welcome Week programming through SGA and make sure that they're heard. And start off with those big environments, those big events, and then pull people into those important discussions that they have in the Diversity Center. Diversity Center here. We have it, every campus on this United States almost has it. But ours is in the basement, where we lock them up and literally create it as a place, like a fish tank. Let's get them out in the community. Let's get everyone talking about diversity and to make sure that it is effective on this campus. And that starts with giving them a lot more money.
Our next question. With many changes, including physical structures on campus, how do you articulate the student voice within these conversations? How do you lead and represent students through these changing times? Matt, you can respond first and you have 2 minutes.
So this is one of the things that I've been talking about on my platform, is ever since I walked on this university, the administration's eyes have been on 2020. 2020 vision, 2020 buildings. I've seen at least 3 buildings get built since I've been here. But I want the eyes to be turned off the 2020 plan and back onto the students of Butler University. Ultimately, it's the students that make Butler a home. It's the students that are there for us to make sure that we are that great university that we are here for. It's the students that create the community of care. Let's take the eyes off the buildings and focus on whatever we have here. Also a part of Senate last year was they would come and have administrators talk to Senate and we'd give student feedback to ideas about new buildings. That is not happening this year. We need student affairs to come in and talk to us about their building plans. We need them to update us so we can give feedback. When it comes time to build like new restaurants in here, and whenever we update Atherton, if that ever happens, we want students to recommend restaurants because ultimately you're going to be the ones that are eating there. So let's bring back our administration into talking to our Senate more because they are elected to represent their constituents. So let's have them there, give their ideas for better student feedback to make sure that the student voice is heard within these buildings and new ideas that are coming here as well.
Okay, Sam, you have 1 minute to respond.
I agree that community is the essential part of who we are and who Butler is. But Butler 2020 also provides us with great benefit. It adds value to our degree and allows us to see how a university grows over time. And so what I think is important is merging the two. And having them come into Senate is great, but it's not enough. Every single person should be a part of those conversations where we talk about how we grow our campus as an entire community that supports each student and allows us to see that our voice counts. And so as a president of Student Government Association, I will ensure that all students can be a part and access those conversations so we can merge community with our Butler 2020 vision.
And Sam, you'll be the first one to respond to this question. What is your vision for the structure of SGA, and how will you put this vision into action? 2 minutes.
Thank you. First off, I think that the most troubling part of SGA right now is the relationship between Senate and SIB, Student Initiatives Board. And being able to be on both boards, Senate as my first year and currently on Student Initiatives Board, I've been able to see the great things that both can do. Senate has the student voice, it gets feedback, and SIB has the ability to execute projects. But right now, Senate lacks the accountability it needs to be productive. And SIB has the ability to execute those projects, but doesn't have the student voice. So as SGA president, I would like to see a hybrid of the two. To see the accountability come from SIB and merge it into Senate. And allow our elected senators get student feedback and carry out the change that senators should do. And I think in doing so, we'll create a more streamlined process where our administrators know who the student voice is and allow for students to see the changes that student government is putting forth on our campus. Additionally, I think our diversity and inclusion boards has great room to grow and support that. And I would like to see Diversity Inclusion Board become the vice president of DIB because what they're doing is crucial, and if we're serious about diversity and inclusion on our campus, elevate their status. And so in doing so, I think we can create a more streamlined, productive, and empowered student government association model.
So my idea for SGA and its structure would be there's this argument about Greek versus independence. SGA is a primarily Greek organization for the most part. That's the argument against it. So why not create a board for independent students? Give them a voice. Have programming, a part of program board, just for independent events. And finally, there's 4 Greek organizations on our Senate, or 4 Greek spots. Why not fill them with 4 independent spots? Because that is half of our campus, over half of our campus. Let's give them more of a voice in our structure. When it comes to shrinking down and making a hybrid, I think we need to grow our Student Government Association. Let's not be exclusive of one another. Let's be inclusive of all people and make it grow. Let's make DIB bigger. Let's go make, and the whole SGA, whenever it comes to promoting people to vice president, that's topics that are happening right now in Senate. So let's make it happen.
Okay, Matt, you'll be the first to respond to this question. You'll have 2 minutes. What is a current trend or issue that you see having an impact on Butler University, and how do you plan to address it?
I think that's a great question, first of all, and also important to all of our students here. The first one is going to be increasing our relationships with BUPD. We need to go out there and have conversations with them. They're like giving us their hand. We just need someone to take it. And for that, I would like to add a committee that's a part of cabinet. It's a group of 4 people that are just there to tackle events like this. When Title IX issues came up, they'd be there to go talk to the Title IX coordinator, talk to health services, and be there. Cabinet as it is right now, it currently has jobs. The president runs Senate and cabinet. DIB runs diversity and inclusion. They all have different jobs that they're already doing. When things pop up, like they do, there's no one to take on that role. No one to chase that, unless we're gonna hold senators more accountable. So let's add something onto our cabinet, a committee that can attack these issues head on, whether that comes to BUPD, Title IX and sexual assault, or other things like that. Let's make sure that they're there in our back pocket so that we can give the students a voice and have power behind that voice, that they're directed here by our cabinet, speaking for all organizations and for all leaders on this campus.
Sam, 1 minute.
I agree with Matt that 2 of the pressing issues right now is the relationship with BUPD and the Title IX processes. But I think what needs to happen is we don't need to put it into SGA and add another layer. But what we need to do is expand it out and allow this to be a campus conversation. Allow Sarah Miner and Sarah Barnes-Diaz and Jamie and Dr. Ross to come in to an SGA forum where every student is able to attend, share their voice, and allow that their concerns to be heard. And in doing so, we can provide more education for our students and ensure that they're being heard. And secondly, the relationship with BUPD is important that we're always talking about that we are a part of a learning environment. And ensuring that students understand that and that we're continuing those critical conversations with BUPD. And lastly, I think everyone knows that I'm passionate about independent student council and bridging that gap. And that will continue to be one of my focuses in allowing a cohesive community for all students within Butler.
What do you view the role of president in community with administrators, and how do you see yourself fulfilling that role? Sam, you get to go first.
Thank you. The president has an incredible opportunity to collaborate daily with administrators from across the board. But in my opinion, that platform is not just for the president of Student Government Association, but a platform for every single student on our campus. And as I said before, it's important that we bring administrators in to the SGA president office hours so students can come and sit down, learn how we're taking action together, and see that we are a united front. Barriers and walls do not work between students and administrators, and I think we can understand that. So as SGA president, I will work critically to develop the relationships and positive relationships with President Danko, Dr. Ross, Provost Morris, Chief Conley, to ensure that every student has access to them and allows their voice to be heard. This past year on Student Initiatives Board and the previous year on Senate, I have been able to have great exposure in having these critical conversations with President Danko and Dr. Ross. And I would continue to do so as your SGA president and advocate for student needs.
Matt, 1 minute.
I think students are having an issue of the approachability of our administrators. President Danko just held open office hours. Not many students decided to go. I think the job of the president needs to act as a mediator. It needs to be there and sit down with President Danko and then invite students over. He needs to be that person that is there and could be a support and well as help communicate different things and different ideas that the student body has. I also think that it's important to have them come talk to students at forums just like this. Have them sit up here and include it as a BCR. Get to know your campus. Get to know the climate of the campus. That is making us a better citizen and a better person in our community. That fulfills the BCR requirement. That's why we'd be here, to continue on the education and to know the resources that are here in our very own campus.
Thank you both. We're now going to have a change in the debate. We'll proceed into a short answer round, and each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to the same question. And Matt, you'll go first. The first question, describe your leadership style.
My leadership style is aggressive, but subdued. I'm completely honest with you guys. I'm someone that's out there and is going to make sure that stuff gets done. And if it doesn't get done, then maybe the position isn't for you and you need more encouragement. Let's encourage each other. Let's go out there and get the job done. Because if you're staying stagnant, we're getting nowhere. Let's also be welcoming of one another. Be that voice and approach students. Don't make them approach you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm first a leader who listens. Someone who listens to students to understand their concerns and learn how to act as a community. And secondly, I'm a leader who leads by example and not by aggression. As an SGA president, I will ensure that I will always listen first and provide an example for my cabinet.
Next question, how will you achieve a sense of balance while maintaining your responsibilities? Sam, you can respond first.
Thank you. I have stepped down from, first I understand the magnitude of the role of being Student Government Association president. And so in knowing that, I have stepped down from my positions in Belt University Dance Marathon. I'm transitioning Independent Student Council to new leadership and will no longer hold employment for on-campus jobs. So my sole dedication as SGA president will be that role in working to make an inclusive community for all students.
Matt, same question.
When it comes to balance, a lot of it is just how you spend your time. Not necessarily getting involved or dropping your involvements is the best idea, because that's the way that you get to student voices. I also think that it's great to keep those relationships within those organizations, but you don't need to hold a leadership position. The job of the SGA president is to be yourself and to be out there and willing for other organizations to come approach you. And like Sam said, I also am willing to make sure that the one job is SGA president for me this upcoming year.
Thank you. Next question, Matt, you will respond first. What is your biggest strength, and also what is your biggest area for growth?
I would say my biggest strength is my approachability. I'm a person, whenever you're walking on this campus with a smile, I want to talk to each and every one of you. I want to make sure that your voices are heard on this campus. Something that I do want to work on is living in the present. A lot of times we're living in the future, worrying about things, living in the past and thinking about what could I have done better.
10 seconds.
So why not live in the present and make sure that Butler University is the best place that it could be for each and every student and that they enjoy their time here.
Sam?
My biggest strength is that I'm able to cultivate relationships with a diverse group of people. Whether you're in a Greek house or an independent student, a commuter or an athlete, I'm able to sit down with you, have a conversation, understand your strengths, and learn how to build a community with each of us. But I would say my biggest weakness is I tend to be too detail-oriented, and I think some of you who've worked with me before is I am very detail-oriented. And sometimes that takes away from the larger picture. And so as SGA president, I'll critically look at how I can be more present and ensure that I'm focusing on the bigger picture.
Thank you. This is our last question in this round, and Samuel will respond first. What qualities do you most admire in your opponent?
Yeah, I think Matt said it, and that was his approachability and his willingness to jump in what he does. Matt doesn't just take a step forward; he goes all in, and that's very admirable in his character, and will speak volumes if elected as SGA president.
Mine is Sam's adaptability. His ability to go out there and do various jobs that are across this campus that are very different, and yet somehow take the reins. I think that's something that is super important to have, not only as a person here at college, as a leader on this campus, but also in the future and beyond.
Thank you both. Now each candidate will give a 4-minute closing statement, and we'll begin with Matt.
When it comes to Butler University here, I want to make it all your home. And how that's going to happen is through advocacy with one another. Let's have those BCR events where you can come and continue to learn, to build that education that we're so strong on when you're first year here. Those required events that you have to go to, let's continue them on, but still give you credit. We're a private university, let's get that voice of the students heard. Mental health is still a big problem on this campus. Nick talked about it last year, and it was one of the most admirable things I've ever heard. It's something that needs to be brought up again. Let's be advocates here on campus during one of the hardest times of transitioning in your life. Let's also care for one another. Let's grow Diversity and Inclusion Board. Let's grow SGA, and let's have large events to get all of campus talking about diversity. Collaboration. Let's go and collaborate with one another. Greek, independent, no matter what background you're from. Let's make sure that every student has a voice on this campus. Let's include independent students in greater roles, whether that's a place on our cabinet here, whether that's more spots in Senate, whether that's programming that's specifically designed for them. Let's give the Independent Student Council a financial backing so that they can do greater events and build that camaraderie to participate in Butler traditions like homecoming and like spring skits. Finally, focus. The university's eyes have been on 2020 since we stepped foot on this campus. Let's bring their eyes on the now. Let's make sure that they're focusing on what is happening on our campus here. The campus climate around the United States is in a rough state right now. There's different things going on. Let's watch what is going on outside of our campus. Let's build that group into cabinet, that committee, that can go and attack and make sure that Butler stays at the top of where it is. Let's focus on what the student body wants and what they need, and let's be that voice for all students. When it comes to Monday, I hope that I've given you guys enough reasons to be with me, to stand with Warren, and to put down my name on that ballot. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to run as your next president. It's been an honor, and I'm excited for what the future may hold for us. Go Dogs, and let's go let's go Butler. Thank you.
When we look at the state of our university, we see barriers and walls. A barrier between BUPD and students. A barrier between Greek and independent students. A barrier between athletes and commuters and the rest of campus. And a barrier between those who do and do not talk about diversity. As your next SGA president, I will bridge the gap between each of those communities. Because what makes Butler Butler is the ability to come here and find your home in a multitude of places. Whether that's in Greek life, or Fall Alternative Break, or Black Student Union, or where I found mine in student government. Each are equally supported and validated. And in doing so, I will be a president that asks administrators the hard questions and holds them accountable. Create an organization that is accessible to all students and student organizations to ensure that they have the ability to take advantage of the resources that SGA provides. And thirdly, promote a diverse and inclusive community within our campus culture. Being a candidate for SGA president has been a pleasure, not because it has been a platform for me, but it has been a platform for the student voice. And I hope that on Monday, that you remember that me as your SGA president will be a president for your voice that will execute change. Thank you.
On behalf of the SGA Election Oversight Committee and myself, thank you all for attending tonight's debate, and thank you everyone who watched from home. And please, let's give both of our candidates another round of applause. And please remember that the election day is next week, Monday, February the 26th, so please get out and vote. Thank you.